Before we start, I love this tweet, and I 100% agree with it. Real subtle friend of mine, Vivian, says, there is such thing as morality. Video games can be good or evil. There is no in between. The Bandai WonderSwan port of Final Fantasy 1 and 2 is evil, but the O2 Fountain game for Game Boy Color is good.
That's amazing.
That's really how I feel about games. I don't really think of games as good or bad. I think of them as good or evil. And they definitely tend to just be one or the other. And that's regardless of quality. You know what I mean? That's very funny. Anyway, I don't know, some kind of gimmick, rise and shine private. We got another we got another day of shooting creepy crawlies. Get your gear and load up onto the Scorpion. Ain't having time to pussyfoot around. That's a word that soldier guys say, I think.
I think so.
Hi, motherfuckers! It's your boys, the RPG Book Club, here to talk about Halo 2, not Halo 2, but Halo 1, but podcast number 2.
Podcast number 2 of Halo number 1.
Hell yeah! Cool. Anything we need to talk about, or we gotta get going?
I think let's just get going. One thing I do want to mention, because I was going to put it in my memorable moments, but it was actually about last week's, is we missed it until I had to replay it this week. But when Cortana gets in the control room there before she sends you off to do today's episode, she goes, "I knew it. This place is Forerunner," and that "I knew it" is the basis for all of the whole rest of the lore that happens, because it wasn't a blind jump at the beginning like we alluded to, and all of this other shit. And it's like, Cortana, you're up to something, but you're nicer than 343, so we'll let you at it.
Yeah, so Cortana's whole thing is that she's real smart and she's always up to something, but I will say, just as a spoiler, but like an anti-spoiler, actually, the spoiler is saying that there's not a twist. Cortana's not evil. Yeah. She's not nefarious. Halo 5 notwithstanding. She doesn't, that's kind of a joke. She's not going to turn out to be a bad AI or anything like that. No. When she's being sneaky, she's usually just being inconsiderate. She usually just forgot that you have to tell humans things.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Or maybe she thought it wasn't important. She's an AI. She loves knowledge. So she just likes to learn everything. She might not be like, oh, I should tell the humans this because it's important.
Yeah.
It's like me. I'm not blurting I guess I am now. I'm not blurting my extremely deep Halo lore at anybody who listens, at anybody who comes by, right? Because I'm like, your average Joe doesn't need to know Halo lore. Yeah. Cortana thinks that as well, despite living in Halo lore.
Yes.
Anywho, so when we last left our hero, she was like, fuck, we gotta go get the chief because there's a bat. Shout out to my new friend. I still am not sure how she feels about
InfoSec.
InfoSec, that's the word, yeah. About InfoSec. But she came over last night. She wanted to hang out, and I was like, well, I kind of have to be playing Halo. And she's like, well, we can play together. And I'm like, okay, if you're down for that, then I'm definitely down for that. So we turned it to easy baby difficulty and had a real good time. So shout out to new friend. You know who you are. I don't know if she'll be listening to this or not, but she might. We had a real good time. Anyway. So, 343 Guilty Spark is the name of this level. You're like, what is that? That's an interesting phrase, you know? So, yeah.
That sounds like a name that Bungie made up.
That sounds like a name that Bungie made up, especially because 343 is, in fact, 7 to the 4th power. Bungie loves the number 7. 343 is 7 to the 4th power. 2401 is 7 to the 5th power, and a character with the number 401 shows up in the next game. So I know my powers of 7. So anyway, we get to the place where we are going, which is a deep, dark, swampy forest. The only kind of time we go to a place like this in the whole series. So this is the last transmission from the captain. There's no backup, and Fohammer just drops us off and is like, "Hey, radio me when you get back here. Like, just radio when you're done. Bye." So we find a downed Pelican with a recorded transmission repeating. It's like, "We crashed. The enemies took the captain. The rest are holed up in a nearby structure." So I'm like, okay. We fight through the swamp. Something neat about this, it's got all that like fog that's hiding like low draw distance, even though it's actually not. It's just fog because it's moody. You go through the swamp. One thing that's interesting is that there's no elites. There's just grunts and jackals.
Yeah.
They seem kind of disorganized.
Yeah.
They're kind of just running around. Eventually, you find the structure, and the game design's cool here. There are like areas, like there are like distinct like little zones, but the hills between them aren't super tall. So you can do a lot of thing where it's like you just jump like over this slope over this hill and like just kind of just ignore the architecture. It's like everything's very low lying. It's cool. It's very open-ended. Also easy to get turned around.
It's super easy to get turned around.
Yeah.
I found myself at the starting Pelican like 7 times.
Anyway, you find the structure and you descend an elevator. But as you get to the structure, you hear some gunshots coming from it. You're like, oh, are my boys fighting the Covenant? But then you get there, and there's no boys. And you're like, who is firing the guns? Anyway, I think it was Covenant guns we were hearing, not Marine guns. But either way, still, why are they firing guns? So you find the structure, you go inside. It's a rather small structure, and you descend an elevator. When you get to the bottom of the elevator, something amazing happens, something that Sam pointed out to me.
Yeah.
You see a group of enemies, but normally what happens is you're in a room, and then the door opens and enemies pour through it, right? Or they're like looking at you, like getting ready for you to come down through the door. This time, there's a door, but the enemies are on our side of it, crowded around the door, looking at the door. And there's all these energy plasma shields, and they're all pointed towards the door, not towards us. So the enemies aren't focused on us; they're focused on this door and defending it, which is cool as shit. Once they see us, of course, they start to attack, or we throw a grenade, and we kill them. Next is a big room. Once again, there's plasma shields and even plasma cannons, all pointed not towards us who are intruding, but towards the further depths of the complex. We go through a pretty short segment, and then we find a Marine. We're like, oh boy, a Marine. Then he shoots us. And turns out he's crazed. He keeps yelling things like, I'm not going to become one of those things. They're everywhere. They'll never find me here. Stuff like that. You can't really do anything to mollify him. You can just sit there. If you sit there trying to listen for him to go through all this dialogue, he will literally kill you. So you have to get behind a crate if you want to listen to all of his dialogue. It's really cool.
If you're like most people, you take him out of his misery with a pistol whip, because I can't let him do
I
that.
didn't think... I guess that would have been a humane thing to do. I just left him because I was like, shooting him would make me feel bad. But you're right, that would have been nice.
Wow, you just literally let his worst fear come true by letting him get eaten.
Okay, that's true. But on the other hand, I'm playing in character and didn't think about that.
Literally in a cutscene that we're going to talk about later, Master Chief does the exact thing of taking someone out of their misery. So you are not playing in character.
Okay, well, you're right, but I legitimately didn't even think about that. But anyway, I definitely killed him at some point.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
True.
Besides, maybe doing what happened to him, maybe it's fun. One other thing I want to mention is that, when you're going through these hallways, you keep going through these hallways, and in this you just open a door and go into a hallway, and there'll just be like a dead elite on the ground, and blood is like splattered all up against the fucking everything. there's a little room that's been, like, barricaded, and you can't go in there, but behind the barricade, you see a whole group of them, all just dead, which is good as shit. You go to one room, it's like an elevator shaft, but there's no elevator, and from the ceiling is dripping, like, the walls are oozing green slime. And then Chief's like, oh, wait, no, they always do that. So it's just spooky as a motherfuck. There's the last big room, there's just no Covenant in it at all.
Yeah.
Like, it's a whole big battle room, and there's no enemies. And you're just like, okay. So you get to what seems to be the bottom of it. There's a door, and you go up to the door, and Chief goes through the door, and a dead body falls through. And Chief gets the chip from his helmet. It turns out they have helmet cams. So he starts watching the helmet cam, and we get the longest cutscene in a game with not very long cutscenes. So we learned what happened to all these human soldiers. Okay, they're chilling, they're exchanging fun soldier banter, and then they start basically going through the same facility we just went to, and there's not any Covenant, and they're seeing that there's a couple of dead Covenants, and they're like, this is weird, what happened? Why is there plasma scoring everywhere? Why were the Covenant shooting their weapons? Maybe there was an accident, maybe there was friendly fire. Then they find a dead elite, and they see that it looks like something like scrambled is inside. Then they get to the door that we just went through. And the door is locked. And they're like, wow, the Covenant tried really hard to lock this door. Like, they locked the shit out of this door. They didn't want anybody going in here. We're going to hack it.
Yeah.
So they hack it, and they go through, and then they're in this big room, the room that we literally are currently standing in. And they start looking around, and one of them says, I've got a bad feeling about this.
Star Wars reference.
Yeah, and then Sergeant says, you always got a bad feeling about something. And then there's a radio. And the people up north say that shit, we made contact with someone, but they're not Covenant. And they all go, ah, and they all die over the radio. Anyway, then what happens is these small, disgusting, meat sack-looking, fleshy critters just start pouring through the doors and just start invading. So here it is. Here's the game's big twist over halfway through, which is that there's a second whole enemy in this game. This game's got zombies. So these small, disgusting critters start pouring through the doors, and one of them attaches to a soldier and won't let go. And it just sort of sucks at his guts until it dies. They start to shoot him, but there's too many. And the screen goes dark. Master Chief looks around and is like, that's where I am right now. And he sees the bodies, and he's like, okay, cool, love to see it. Then the music starts to happen, and it's just it's basically here for the rest of the game. The music starts doing this thing where it'll often just do like a drone, like a string, like a low, like cello drone, and it's good as shit. And there's some skittering noises. Anyway, eventually a door at the other end of the room. Here, this is the coolest thing of all. Like, this is the big reveal of the Flood, right? You'll find out that they're called the Flood in a second.
Yeah,
Sorry.
in the next level.
But it's an apropos name. Into this level, technically, but yeah. I know they didn't program it this way, but it worked for me, at least. When it happened to me, the big reveal, the enemies came out of the door that was on the farthest door from me in the room, and in between me and the door was some level architecture, so I couldn't see them.
Yeah.
So my first introduction to them is just my radar has an enormous fucking mass of red dots on it.
Yeah.
Which is the coolest shit. Like, it's like, there are so many of these. Look at your radar. You know what I mean? You can't even see individual dots. It's just a mass. Anyway, so then you start fighting the Flood. They start coming from all the doors. Right now we're only fighting little buddies, so just those little buddies, you shoot them. They kind of pop like popcorn. Pop, 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 pop. You just sort of mow them down with your assault rifle. It's not actually hard, but it is spooky and cool as shit. So then, I know this is going really slow, but this level is so fucking good, Sam. I noticed all sorts of really cool stuff about this level.
Yeah.
So, time to escape. Escaping the way we came in. Remember, this whole time, Cortana is not there. Captain is not there. You don't have anyone to talk to. You're just doing what you fucking think you need to do. So you escape, which is, remember, a pretty short trip. It's not a very long trip. After 1 or 2 rooms, you meet Flood combat forms. We know that's what they're called later. Mm-hmm. They're zombies. They attack you with melee. Their arms have like weird tentacle whip things, and they're fast. They always invariably they leap at you when they attack. And you're like, okay, I get it. That's how zombies are. They're going to be attacking me with their melee attacks. Luckily, I have guns. You enter the big rooms from before, and the Covenant and Flood are fighting each other. Mm-hmm. So now the Covenants are fighting, the Floods are fighting. You can kind of ignore them if you want. They have different AI patterns. The Covenant will explicitly attack you if they see you, kind of. The Flood just attack whoever's nearby. It's really, really cool. The AI is cool as shit. This is actually the game's main bullet point gimmick, actually. You get back to the first room, and lo and behold, it's the final weapon in the game, weapon that hasn't shown up yet, the shotgun. Yeah. What else for fighting zombies?
So good.
Also, the shotgun in this game is so OP. The range is so much.
Yeah. Like specifically for Flood, if I'm facing an elite and I empty most of a clip in an assault rifle, they'll go down. If I do that with the Flood, they won't. But across the room, barely any of my shotguns should even reach them. The Flood will go down. Like the shotgun.
Yeah, this thing is made for Floods.
Yeah.
So anywho, though, but I'm like, wait, isn't this the last room? I'm about to get into the elevator. Why are they giving me a shotgun? So you get in the elevator and it goes the wrong direction. The elevator goes down instead of up. So now we are deeper in the facility, somewhere we have never been before. There is just Flood down here. There's no Covenant. Mm. So now we're getting into Floodland. Yeah. But still, they're just zombies. You hole up in a small hallway, phalanx formation style, and just shoot them, right? While they come at me with their melee attacks. They're just mindless, stupid creatures, right? So then we hear some assault rifle shots off in the distance. Here's the thing: Covenant refuse to use human weapons. Yeah. They think that they're tainted. So there must be a human comrade down here. No, so the Flood can use guns. And they wait till this point to reveal that the Flood are smart. They have intelligence. Mm-hmm. They are capable of using guns. And then, I didn't write this. Wait, we don't learn that till the next. Never mind. There's something cool we learn about how turns out they're smart, so they're a much more dangerous villain than we previously thought.
Yeah.
Oh, also, Flood do not have a survival instinct.
Yeah.
So, like, a Flood with a rocket launcher, they don't care if they blow themselves up. So they are even more dangerous, actually.
Yeah.
Right? They don't...
Rocket Floods are, like, the worst thing you can run into in this entire game. Like,
yeah, they're nuts. They will fire at you all the time. They don't care if they kill their friends. They don't care if they kill themselves. They're just going to try and kill you. So, yeah, no survival instinct whatsoever. Anyway, we go through all sorts of shenanigans. It's really good, really spooky. There's a part where we're supposed to be crossing a light bridge, but then it breaks while we're halfway through it, and we have to go around. We go through some side facilities that seem to be, like, weird, like, research facilities, so maybe this is, like, the facility where they, like, made the Flood, or maybe where they were being contained or something like that. You don't know. It's all just visual. Yeah. Eventually, again, it's real spooky. It escalates. It's freaky as fuck. Eventually, we get to the top. We finally do escape. And thank God we meet some Marines. Echo 419 says, finally, I've been trying to contact you. There's a tower nearby. Please go to that tower and I'll pick you up. That'll be our sort of rally point. So you fight through the Flood in the swamp. Your Marines definitely all die.
Yep.
I think the game might even be designed so as to strongly encourage them all to die, because the following cutscene makes more sense if you're alone.
Yeah.
Anyway, they all die. Eventually you see the tower, and you're like, finally, we're done. This mission's been too freaky. There's already been enough surprises for one day. I just want to get out of here. But when you get to the tower, you hear a strange robotic sound. Mm-hmm. You hear this, like, I don't know, like a little lightsaber kind of noise or something, like a lightsaber Wookiee. You see yellow dots on your radar, which indicate friendlies. Lasers appear out of nowhere. You look up, and there are some weird robots flying around lasering the flood. There are allies. So now we've got these new friends, these robots who are shooting lasers at the other new bad guys. And then you see who's humming. There's a small, strange, spherical robot just hovering, going around going, doo-doo-doo. Is he in charge of the robots? I don't know. After the flood are all dead, it goes into a cutscene. He appears before you, and he says what is kind of his catchphrase. He goes, "Oh, hello," which is what he sees when anything happens.
Yes.
He says, "Oh, hello. I am not the Guardian. I am the monitor of Installation 04. My name is 343 Guilty Spark." Or he says 343 Guilty Spark. "Someone has released the flood." So now we know what these things are called. "Someone has released the flood. My job is to ensure it doesn't leave this installation." I'm thinking, buddy, it already left the installation. But I need your help. Come with me. And you just teleport away. He doesn't wait for you to say yes or no because you're a stoic baby. So he's just like, boop, let's go. So cool. Let's go save the day. This seems totally normal. I'm sure he's fine.
Yeah.
Don't you agree?
Yeah. He's definitely not 2 boss fights in this series.
Yeah. So that's it. We have now discovered the flood. The big, scary, probably was created here maybe by the ancient creatures who made this place sort of thing. I'll go ahead and spoil it. In the future, the way that they keep using the word installation, eventually it becomes clear over the course of the next level or so that when they say installation, he means the whole Halo. He means this thing that we're on is an installation. That becomes clear at some point, but I might as well just explain it now.
Yeah.
So we get to the next level. In my opinion, best level in the game. It is called the Library.
It's phenomenal.
It does not have most of this game's bullet points. It doesn't have Marines that are pretty smart. It doesn't have Covenant with brilliant, groundbreaking for the time, still holds up today AI. It doesn't have vehicles. It doesn't have large open combat areas with lots of avenues for doing things. No. This level is a goddamn slog, and it's a nightmare, and it goes on for 1,000,000 years.
Yeah.
This level is one giant indoor level, but usually pretty open, where you just fight nonstop waves and waves and waves of flood going through dark, very, very dim, very, very dimly lit, mausoleum-like place.
Yeah, and one thing I love about this level so much is you still don't have Cortana, and now you have 343 shouting in your ear, but frequently he'll be like, all right, I need to run up ahead to open up a door, so you're by yourself, and so you're just following the only pathway forward because everything's a hallway, and it'll go like a minute and a half of you walking by yourself, and there's no flood, there's no Covenant, there's no nothing. It's just spooks. So that then when the floods show up, it's tense again. Instead of it just being a firefight for 35 minutes, it's like has brilliant just lulls where nothing happens, and then super crazy firefights, and then some medium bits, and it just goes back and forth constantly. It's
also
beautiful.
It is hard.
Yeah.
It is no question the hardest level in the game.
Yeah.
Whatever difficulty level you're on, you're going to feel like, wow, that was a huge spike, and then the next level is not going to be as hard. 100%.
I died way more on 2 Betrayals than I did on the Library, but I still died a lot on the Library.
Oh, really? Well, I guess I was playing on baby mode, but
I mean, I was too, but I'm a baby.
Oh, right, but I'm saying I was playing on baby mode after this point, so my friend joined me after this level.
Oh, okay.
So this is the last level I played on Heroic. But from my memory, it still eases off. But it's definitely a difficulty spike, at least.
Yeah.
Because previously, I was handling Heroic pretty well, like, almost a little bit too well. It was like most areas I, like, would often just not die. Or die, like, if you die, like, once per area, that's, like, normal. That doesn't feel like dying. That feels like just playing Halo.
Yeah.
But yeah, this, though, was, like, we're talking reset after reset after reset after reset after reset.
Yeah.
Also, this is where you start to really learn the value of knowing.
Speaking of your buddy and dying a lot, the game is so much better in co-op because if you can get to a safe spot after your buddy has died, your buddy will respawn, and so it can help you get through really crappy situations by just like,
Yeah.
all right, let me run away for a second, get to a loading zone, so you'll come back.
You can tag team hopscotch.
Yeah.
At one point, my friend was in a difficult situation on the following level. She was actually holding her own really well. She was fighting a lot of enemies, but she was also kind of overwhelmed. But I was like way over on the other end of a big battlefield, and I told her, "Oh, by the way that this game handles respawns, like it's okay if you die. Like you don't need to freak out. Just like do your best, try to kill him, and if you die, it'll be fine." And it turns out she didn't die, but if she had, I would have just run away and then she would have come back in 5 seconds. You know, they do make the game harder and put more enemies and stuff to compensate, but it still is. But like you have so many more this is such a strategically complex game that being able to do 2 different people and do that strategy makes it. The game can't keep up. The game can't keep up difficulty-wise. It's not nearly as hard, even if they try to make it so, which is cool. So like solo legendary is like Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah.
So anyway, this level is just long and it's a nightmare. You're at the very bottom of this giant... there's a giant central chamber, and it's a huge shaft, and in the middle of the shaft is a giant fucking hole that goes down to nothing. In the very center of this chamber is a glowing, floating green object called the Index. And the our boy talks about how we need to get the index so we can activate the installation. But to get to the middle of that thing, we have to go up 4 floors, and then at the top of the 4th floor, there's a giant elevator that then goes back down, and that allows us to get to the index, because the elevator is in this shaft. So then what was previously a hole becomes the elevator floor. We can then use it to get the thing. So each floor goes on for a while. At one point, we get to a locked door, and he's like, "Oh, I gotta go away and unlock this. I'll be back in a bit. This is the first of 10.
Yeah.
And you're like, Jesus Christ. And at this point, you really start to learn the value of knowing when to hold them and when to fold them, which is to say when to fight through the enemies and when to run through them. Or a combination of the two. It's not binary. Sometimes it's like you're kind of shooting and you're kind of running. It's very interesting. There's one point where most of the time when he says, "Wait, I gotta go unlock this door," you're just at the end of a hallway. But at one point, he says, "Wait, I gotta unlock this door," and then the door you just went through closes, so you're in a very small environment, and you're like, "Oh my fucking god, this is so fucking scary." Like, the area that you're in is like 3 times smaller than the area you're usually in when he says, "Hold on, I gotta go unlock this door." So they're just doing all these permutations. They're playing on all these different ideas of horror, just messing with you. And this goes on for a billion goddamn years. Sam, there are a few bits of like exposition that happen over the course of this level. What are sort of the important things? The one thing I can think of is, well, you go.
So he mentions that the Flood are trying to take over our ship, though it's unclear if he means our ship or the Covenant ship, because he thinks that we're all together at first. And so it's like, oh, they're trying to take your ships. They can get out of here, so we got to hurry. And
that's the big twist. Yeah, so it turns out they're far enough to repair and then fly a spaceship.
Yeah.
Which is real bad. Which is bad.
Bad. And other small bits that he mentions are he's like, this ring will take out all of the Flood in the area, but it's not big enough to do the whole job. But when the others follow suit, that'll get the job done. And mentions that this is installation 04, so obviously there are more than one Halo. But
there's like 5 right now.
Yeah. And will they cancel the series when they reach Halo 7? But
they should.
But they should probably cancel it before 6 comes out.
Just kill it while
so
it's...
Infinite does look good. It doesn't look like any old Halo, but it looks like something I'll have a lot of fun playing.
Just put the series out of its goddamn misery.
But anywho, so he then also mentions something else that I remember was like, oh shit, but I can't remember what it was. I think he almost implies what Halo's actual function is, but he
does actually, yes.
Gray area.
This game has a lot more foreshadowing than I thought with like the things that are twists. At one point, here we go. He says the Flood must not escape; they consume all. then there is a third form of flood that appears in this level.
Oh, yeah.
And how they're everywhere.
Yeah, I hate them.
There's so there's three kinds of flood.
They're not difficult. They just mess up your plan because they're area.
Yeah,
control.
I mean they blow up. Yeah, they blow up real good. So there's three kinds of flood. First is little spores.
Mm-hmm.
They're like kind of like alien style face huggers. They don't do face hugging. I'm just saying that's what they are. They're small and they try to get you. If they get you, if they kill you, then they turn you into a zombie, and you turn into what's called a combat form, which are the ones we've been fighting. They can either be zombie-style melee, or they can be weapon-style.
Oh, and one thing that's really cool
though,
is you see some that are humanoid and some that are obviously elites when you're fighting them, which is such a nice touch.
It is really cool. So they're all either human. They're all either Marines or elites specifically. I don't think they infect like grunts and shit. Yeah.
But that's what the third form is grunts.
Yeah. No.
That's how I always read it.
Let's see. I guess they don't totally explain it here in detail, but the way I understand it, and again, it's pretty vaguely explained. The way I understand it is some combat forms just eventually, as the third part of their life cycle, turn into carrier forms. And carrier forms are these they're like giant spherical sacks of flesh with tiny little legs at the bottom, and they kind of like waddle. It's disgusting.
I think that's probably why I thought they were...
maybe they are. Maybe they're grunts with like the upper parts like way swollen. Anyway, they're called carrier forms because they're the mommies. They carry inside of them lots of little spores. So when they get near you, or if you shoot them a bunch, they blow up. They pop with quite a lot of force, and they send the spores flying. So spores, combat, carriers, more spores. That's the life cycle of the flood. Anyway, but then the monitor does say, as long as he says, it is insidious and elegant. As long as any hosts remain, the flood is virulent.
So I checked on...
A little bit of foreshadowing there.
I checked on the Halo wiki, and Lieutenant McKay thinks that... I don't know who that is. He has it's Melissa McKay, if that means anything. But grunts and jackals are the carrier forms until Halo Wars, when they needed more units. So there are flood forms of both grunts and jackals in Halo Wars.
That makes enough sense.
Yeah,
because it says that they weren't jackals. You know?
They weren't virulent enough to take on a full transformation into combat form. So
that makes sense. Or rather, maybe it's more like not virulent enough. Maybe it's more like, by default, the thing that makes the most sense for reproduction is for all flood to turn into carrier forms. That would make the fast reproduction. But some of them, it's like, oh, this is better suited for combat because we need to fight people sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, oh, this guy's good at fighting. We'll make him a combat one, even though he won't be able to serve reproductive purposes. Anyway, there are a couple more there's a lot of... See, the reason I'm realizing here why I was so obsessed with this game as a kid, there's so much mysterious-ass lore building here that they vaguely allude to. They say a lot of weird things. First of all, he says something like... the monitor says, puzzling. You brought such ineffective weapons to combat the flood, despite the containment protocol. Basically, in general, the monitor just is confused that you seem to not know what's going on.
Yeah.
And he doesn't get why you don't understand what's going on. Let's see.
Real quick, what class Mjolnir armor are we wearing in this one?
4.
Okay, so I thought we were wearing Mark II for some reason, and the flood...
He's a Spartan too.
Yeah, that's probably where it was. But he talks about how you only have a Class 2 exosuit. You need to be wearing at least a Class 7 when you're facing the flood. And I thought at first that those numbers lined up, and I'm like, wait, did I miss something that Halsey was up to no fucking good? But no.
I think he's just saying, like, by my classification of how power suits work, I would call yours a Class 2.
Yeah.
You know?
Which totally makes sense, but I thought it was a little bit of a like another lore thread that Halsey knew about the flood for some fucking reason.
Yeah, that actually threw me for a loop too for a second as well. Anyway, and then let's see. He goes, "This is funny. Your environment suit should serve you well when the flood begins to alter the atmosphere. You are a good planner."
And he keeps calling you Reclaimer too, which is
so
cool.
that's the main thing. He keeps calling you this. He keeps calling you Reclaimer, and at one point he even hold on. At one point he even says something like, "Oh. I thought you all died, but I'm so glad that apparently some of you survived to reproduce." Which is crazy. He talks about the last time the flood got released, the sterilization protocol, if any, to be enacted. He says, last time we did the sterilization, we kept samples here to study. Seems that may have been a mistake.
Yeah, that's always a mistake. There's always some science douchebag that's like, you know what, we should keep zombies just in case. Let's just try and see what's happening.
Yeah, so that's the main thing. Just all of the weird implications that he knows something you don't, and that you, a regular old human with a bodysuit, are actually some kind of ancient being. You're like, what the fuck? I don't really get it. I mean, we've read sci-fi. We know how it works. Ancient civilizations build weird ancient structures, and maybe humans are descended from them, perhaps, and we don't realize that. Anyway, we finally get the index. He says that because you are a Reclaimer, you are the only one who is allowed to get it. So it really is like humans are somehow involved with this. You're the only one who's allowed to grab the index. But once you grab it, once you get it out of the machine, he takes it. And he's like, okay, yeah, only you can get it, but like, you're organic.
To hold on. Yeah.
I need to hold on to it because I can't be taken over by the flood. All right, let's go. So we did it. We completed our mission. We got the index. We're going to go save the day. So he immediately teleports us back. So now we're on the next level called Two Betrayals, which is a great name for a level. Cutscene begins. He teleports us in mid-conversation. So apparently during this whole teleporting, he's been like explaining shit to the chief. And chief is probably just like, uh-huh.
Yeah, and the thing that he says is so anything that is significantly organic and significantly smart, he uses bigger words than that, is a suitable host for the flood, is one thing that he says, which is interesting for what we're about to hear.
Yep. So anyway, Monitor then says, okay, my usefulness here has come to an end. Protocol doesn't let me do this extremely important task. Only you can do this, Reclaimer. So he gives you the index, you put the index in the thing, and then some weird noises happens, and the Monitor goes, that wasn't supposed to happen. And then Cortana shows up, and I'll skip past this, but basically, they have a big argument. Cortana is real mad about what's going on, and she's mad at you for being a fucking stupid. And she's like, we're all gonna die, fuck you. And the Monitor's like, no, fuck you. And then the chief is like, what is happening? And Cortana explains, you dunce, you utter fool. This thing, this point she really says, you don't understand why the Forerunners built Halo. Turns out it doesn't kill Flood, it kills their food, is exactly what she says. It wipes out all sentient life in the galaxy. That way the Flood don't have anything to eat. That way they eventually all die out. Therefore, which might seem like counterintuitive, but it'll stop the Flood from leaving the galaxy if there's other galaxies with life on them, and it'll at least save lower level organisms.
Yeah.
So that the lower level organisms can evolve and become sentient, and at least they don't all fucking die, right? Yeah. Better than nothing. But apparently they didn't know how to make a Halo that just killed the Flood, I guess.
I guess.
Forerunners. I mean, actually, it makes sense. The Forerunners weren't able to kill the Flood. If they could have, they would have. So that's the point of it. Now, all of a sudden, we don't want to activate the Halos. That sounds like a thing we don't want to do. She says, ask him. And here's my favorite exchange in the entire game. Master Chief turns to the Monitor and says, is it true? And the Monitor says, I'll just read it. He goes, more or less, technically this installation's pulse has a maximum effective radius of 25,000 light years, but once the others follow suit, this galaxy will be quite devoid of life, or at least any life with sufficient biomass to sustain the flood. But you already knew that. I mean, how couldn't you? And then Monitor's like, dude, like, you were with me this whole time. Come on, let's do it. And then Monitor says, why would you hesitate to do what you've already done? And then the Monitor says, last time you asked me if it were my choice, would I do it? Having had a considerable time to ponder your query, my answer has not changed. There is no choice. We must activate the ring. Anyway, then Cortana's like no, and Chief's like, yeah, I'm siding with my mom here. So then the Monitor calls up a bunch of Sentinels who are now no longer your allies; they are now your enemies, and you fight the fuck out of them. Yep. The rest of the game's plot is very simple. We essentially have two kind of filler levels, but they also fucking whip. This level we're about to do is this doesn't all happen at once. You're like finding this out as you go, but I'll just explain it now. You're like, what do we do? The only thing we can do is let's just destroy Halo. That'll wipe out the flood. They're only on this ring. Let's just destroy the whole ring. That'll do it, right? I'm analyzing. Oh, what if we blew up the entire Pillar of
Autumn.
Yeah, I was making sure. What if we blew up the entire Pillar of Autumn? Just used its fusion reactor, blow it up, and blow up the whole fucking ring. Hell yeah, that's a good idea. We're not there yet, though. We're having trouble figuring this out. Let's just buy some time. So, on this level, called Two Betrayals, you go through the assault on the control room backwards. Except it's a lot faster this time because now, for the first time in the game, unless you sequence braked earlier like I did, you get to fly a Banshee. And
you get to fly a Halo 1 Banshee whose controls are slightly different, and it drove me up the wall.
Yeah, they're harder to control, but they do have a fuel rod gun.
Yeah, they do.
Which is extremely... Its weaponry are extremely OP, even though they control weird and you can't do a barrel roll.
Yeah. You can't boost in any of the Covenant stuff in this game.
Yeah, they hadn't added any kind of boosting. Not being able to boost in the Ghost is so weird.
Yeah.
It makes it harder to splatter people, although you still can.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we go through this level essentially backwards, except... no, we go through, the entire level backwards, but there's all these new places too. So, like, on these big open canyon areas, instead of going through them, we grab a Banshee and fly up to a place that we didn't know was there before, like a little
lookout place.
Ledge,
a
little lookout way up high, and we go through a door up there, and there's this big reactor. And it's funny, Cortana's like, in order to blow up the reactor, I calibrated your suit, so if you walk into the glowy energy beam, it'll zap all of your energy and overcharge the reactor. And you feel like Chief isn't a fan of that really, but you have to do it.
Yep.
So you backtrack through, you do this 3 times, and then the level's over. And again, as you're doing that, you do figure out some other stuff, but it's not super important. So
no.
Is there anything else?
The only thing you learn about is so you realize you're doing that not to like destroy Halo, but to because those are part of the firing mechanism for Halo. So you're destroying those so that 343 has to fix it before he can fire it to buy you some time.
Exactly. Yeah, you're buying time. You're fucking up 343's plans by doing this. And what was I gonna say? This level is just like, again, there are no more Marines for the rest of the game. So you, but there's just tons of rooms of floods and Covenants fighting. It whips. It keeps happening.
How you were playing easy on this level?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was about to ask you how hard the last blowy uppy room that you had to do was for you, because for me it was nigh impossible playing by myself.
I didn't even have to fight the bad guys. I just ran past them. Also, I was playing on easy mode and on co-op, so
you had a meat
she
shield.
kind of covered me, and I walked up to the thing, and the enemies are all still there. But as soon as this game also at this point, every level at this point in the game involves you charging headlong, trying to hit the cutscene trigger before the bad guys kill you.
Yeah.
Which is, especially with the library. God, the last room in the library is so goddamn hard.
Yeah.
And you're just like holding down that joystick like, come on, cutscene. Because as soon as the screen starts to fade to white, you've won.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So I tried to do that in this one, but the moment I would do it, I would then have no shields, and the sentinels would start hitting me. So I would try to like get away from them in time for a blowy uppy flood to just wreck me, or
so there's actually 3 enemies.
Yeah, because the sentinels are on there too. Or I get stuck with a plasma grenade or something where I couldn't get to the exit fast enough.
No, it's hard. But yeah, so here there's actually 3 distinct enemy factions now. The Sentinels, the Floods, and the Covenant. It's so good. Maybe that's why they couldn't also have Marines. Maybe their AI couldn't handle 4 different groups.
So.
Which is a shame, but also I get it.
One thing the devs have talked about on that Twitter thread where they talk about how they tricked gamers into thinking their games were good or whatever that famous Twitter thread from last year was, but they said that each character doesn't have an AI. There is an AI for controlling the forces for each faction, so that the captain can say, "Go over there," and the little one will respond to it, and it makes the little one, the captain, seem smarter when really it was just the AI saying, "I need the little one to move over there."
Yep.
But,
and that includes a script where if the captain dies, it switches to a different script where the whole army is just running around crazily, which is super cool.
Gotta love it.
That makes a lot of sense. So anywho, we're done, and then they find out, okay, let's see, where is it? It turns out the Pillar of Autumn is good to go. It is ready to blow. The fusion reactors still work. We can definitely go blow it up. But it's got these fail-safes that only the captain can do. I can't even do it. Even though I'm the shipboard AI, we gotta find the captain or his neural implants. So we go to the next level, Keys, which is a fucking good level. This level is a retread of Truth and Reconciliation.
Because on the way there, Cortana's like, so that ship that they were trying to repair and get out of here crashed because the flood. So they sent in some Marines or a Covenant to try and kill the flood and repair it and get the fuck out of Dodge. But it's not going well.
Yeah, so cool enough. The Flood have already set up shop here. So the Covenant that are here are actually here invading against the Flood, which is cool, even though it's their ship. So we go through this ship a lot. There's a tiny bit of comic relief where Cortana teleported the Chief upside down, which is cute, and he falls over, which is, and of course does not have a line of dialogue, which is even funnier. I love Cortana's thing too, because after she, because like it shows the cutscene as she's talking as they're like teleporting over, and it shows the whole level, and then it gets there and Chief is upside down, and she breaks off what she was saying. I was like, oh, I see. So for the coordinates, I needed to. Sorry. Let's go. My bad. Sorry, buddy. Anyway, you fight through the ship. Everything is way the fuck on fire. It's the same layout from before, except more fucked up. Things are sideways. Things are broken. Doors don't open. Crates are on their sides. There's fighting everywhere. Plasma scores and shit. At one point, you're trying to go forward, but you can't, because there's a big goddamn gaping hole in the ground. And Cortana's like, I don't see a way around this. If we just jump down to the ground, there's a big lake down there. Let's just jump down there, find a way back up. Of course, I didn't get any of that because I charged through the door, didn't notice the giant gaping hole in the ground, and just fell. So I imagine Cortana being like, Chief, oh yeah, no, you got it. Okay, cool, good job, buddy.
Yeah.
Love you. And oh yeah, it's actually a lake of coolant as well. It turns out if you don't jump, she has lots of lines of dialogue where she's like, bruh, I promise you it's fine, we gotta jump. Whereas for me, I just like, whoops. So now you're fighting on the ground. And It's all very dark and spooky. It's all these weird little canyons, super thin canyons. Everything's like green and goopy. It turns out that's coolant from the ship, but everything just fucking glows, but is also somehow super dim, and it's scary and shitty.
It literally is. The walls are oozing green slime, but they always do that.
Yeah.
It's not flood.
Exactly.
It's coolant. They always do that.
Exactly. They do literally always do that, yeah. Eventually you get on a gravity lift and you go back up, and then you fight your way through the ship some more, and eventually you find the captain. When you find the captain...
This scene blew my mind. Oh, also, this whole time you're in the Truth and Reconciliation, you get radio chatter from Keyes, and he's like, "You idiot, just leave me, just let me die." And Cortana's like, "Oh, he's gone crazy. His vitals are flatlining. We really need to hurry and get to him."
Yeah, so you actually get to the captain, like, right after he dies.
Yeah.
And you get to, this scene affected me a lot as a kid too. It needs to be made clear, the Flood looks so fucking gross.
Yeah, they're body horror to the extreme.
Yeah. In the later game, when they got better graphics, they decided that they were like plants, and while I don't disagree with them being plants in this game because they didn't have very advanced graphic technology, you know, this game operates on a lot of simplicity. All of the Covenant, all of the Forerunner architecture is just, it's all brutalism. Why? Because it can just be concrete with no textures on it.
Yeah.
It can just be simple concrete geometry. Covenant ships are all simple geometry with like mostly things just being purple with slight amounts of adornment. Pillar of Autumn is largely just like sheet metal. The walls of this cannon are just rock, right? So this game relies a lot on things being very simple looking for it to work, because it's such a complex game with so many characters on. There's so many units on screen at once, many times in this game. So the Flood, they literally just look like they're made of flesh. Yeah. That's it. They're just weird blobs of skin.
Yeah, when they
tan.
When they do make them more plant-like, it is like flesh plants, but in the OG, you don't get any of the sort of planty bits.
Also, Halo's always been a very colorful series. So later, in it's generally very colorful. So later in the game, later in the series, the Flood they're more green and purple and stuff like that. Here, they're just
flesh.
They're just tan, light brown, I guess, fleshy, gross as shit.
Yeah.
So you get to the captain, and he's an extremely giant ball of flesh with a little captain face embedded on one end. And it's fucked up. He's like attached to all the ship's controls, so you're like, how come he has such a special form? I'm guessing this is what the Flood... This is the form the Flood makes when they want to control... Because we're in the command room of the ship. So I'm guessing this is like a I'm flying the plane Flood, where it's like just attached to the ship, like it's attached to all the controls. Oh, also, eventually we do get the impression that when the Flood absorbs someone, they absorb their knowledge. In addition to just their physical bodies. So they're always learning. So maybe they learn from Keyes how to fly a spaceship, right?
And it's like, you need 16 hands, and it's like, we could bring in 16 combat forms, or I could just grow 16 hands.
I could just grow them. Exactly. I'm doing the whole Star Trek captain ship a bridge on my own. I'm reaching over to the engines, reaching over to the shields, reaching over to tell people what the computer said.
Yeah. It's like, but our computer can talk. Shut up.
Shut up. Yeah. So anywho, so that's how that works. And they're like, well, he's definitely gone. We know what we have to do. So Chief jams his robo hand into what was Keyes' brain and yanks out his neural implant. And then it's dripping with goo, so he kind of shakes it off. He's like, yeah. And then he puts in his own head. So he's like, whatever. I mean, we gotta fucking do it, right? So
yeah,
whatever. So then you gotta escape. And then you escape the same way you escaped last time, except instead of stealing an entire Covenant dropship, you just steal Banshee. And you get the fuck out. And now we're on the last level.
Yep.
Another tiny bit of comic relief here, where the ship is the Banshee isn't going to make it, and Chief says yes it will, and then she says pull up, and then instead of flying into the hole in the ship, you crash right underneath it, and then his hand dramatically climbs up like I survived. It's silly.
And Cortana's like, you meant to do that, and Chief just waves her off and pulls out his gun and does a level.
Yeah, we're finally seeing that Chief and Cortana have a rapport. It is a very, very, very low-key rapport, but it is extremely good, and I love it. This level, again, a lot of stuff technically happens, but none of it really matters. We're trying to figure out how to blow up the ship. Yeah. There's various ways. We try
It does a thing that I approve of in screenwriting in general, where if your characters want a thing, instead of thinking of ways to keep them from having the thing, think of ways for them to get the thing and then it go horribly wrong. So it's like, oh, we just need to go to the bridge, and then we just push in a button and everything will blow up and it'll be great. So you do that and it doesn't work because 343 shows up, and then you have so many other things to do in the level because you have to play by ear, and it's really cool.
Yeah. So exactly. 343 shows up and jettisons into your. He fucks up your plans. He hacks the mainframe. He says some more stuff.
He builds a GUI interface using Visual Basic to backtrace your IP.
Yes. Meanwhile, you're oh darn it! What's that fucking sentence? So I have a friend, dear friend Amber Autumn, shout out. She doesn't listen to this, but if she ever does, who is the only person in the goddamn world who saw the Fantastic Four reboot. And apparently it's a terrible movie, but apparently there's one line in it where, darn it, it's not biotechnology, it's not biometrics, it's fuck. I might text her right now so that I can share by the end of this episode.
Okay.
Oh, wait. Biology. Damn it. It's just really bad, like, sci-fi line. I was going to say it, and then I just realized I didn't remember it. Damn it. I thought if I stalled, it would come to me. Anywho, so he hacks the mainframe, he fucks you up, now you're fighting Sentinels all the time. He says a lot of really funny lines, actually, that I might share later. Eventually you find out, you know what we're gonna do? Forget overriding the mainframe, forget decoupling the blast cores, forget
reversing
rerouting
the polarity of the neutron flow.
We're not going to reverse the polarity of the neutron flux capacitors. We're not going to reroute energy from the shields into the override matrix.
We're just going to blow it up with a grenade. Let's just throw
a grenade at it. Chief actually interrupts.
I love it so much.
Cortana literally says, "I don't know what to do," which is something that if you know Cortana would never say that.
Yeah.
So Cortana's like, "I don't know what to do."
It's so great because she's just like listing off things the whole time. She's like, well, we could go and we could do this to override the mainframe, blah, 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 blah. And then that doesn't work. She's like, well, we could try this, blah, 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 blah. And then she's like, I don't know what to do. And Chief is just like, well, if all we have to do is take down the containment field, how much firepower takes down a containment field? And she's like, ... Not much. A grenade, I guess. And he's like, let's just fucking blow it up.
He literally goes, how much firepower would you need to crack one of the engine shields? She says, not much. A well-placed grenade, perhaps, but why? And then the camera cuts back to Chief, who is now holding a grenade. And he's like throwing it up and down with what I'd imagine a sassy look on his face. And she's just like, all right, let's fucking go.
Because like this whole time she was like, all right, I gave us 15 minutes so we can get out and get on a fighter jet and escape to outer space, and we find there's plenty of time, and then it messes up, and she's like, okay, well, this way we only got 15 minutes. And he's like, okay, well, this way we only got 6 minutes. And now Chief is like, what if I just blow it up while I'm here and we just go with the flow.
Yeah, let's just go with it. So then we go through a lot more maze-like levels. There's actually an optional armory here that I somehow managed to miss this time around, which is a shame. There are some invisible elites which haven't shown up for ages, and some real good. There's like rocket launchers and shit in there. I don't know. I guess I missed the armory, which is a shame. But anyway, you get to the final boss of the game, which is a final boss in the classic PC shooter tradition. It's very similar to the final boss in something like Half-Life, where the final boss is just a large room with a lot going on.
Yeah.
That's like kind of a thing. You see that in a lot of games. Because this game had the sense to know that shooters shouldn't have boss battles.
Yep.
A lesson that Halo 2 did not learn.
Yep. Final boss in Halo 2 is the low point of the entire series.
Definitely the low point of the entire series. Which I think the other bosses are okay, actually.
Yeah.
Even though, they're dumb, but they're fine.
Yeah,
the boss against the Prophet boss is, like, pretty good.
Yeah, in one of our live episodes, one of the questions was favorite boss fights, and I listed the Scarab fight from Halo 2 because it's good.
Yeah.
But
although the Scarab fight is a
level
shooter.
Is a level made to look like a boss fight.
It is a shooter boss fight, which is to say it's the proper kind of boss fight for a shooter, which is to say it's really just a level.
Yeah.
The only actual other boss fight is the Prophet fight, which is actually awesome because you get to punch an old guy.
Yeah.
If you feel like punching a boomer. I should get it. Okay, I'm going to make a meme of Chief punching the Prophet, and it says, okay, boomer.
That's good.
There's the whole wide world of Halo/OK Boomer crossover memes.
Yeah.
No one steal that idea. I'm gonna have to make these memes before this goes live.
Yeah, you got 3 days because this is coming out on Halo 1 day.
Yeah. Anyway, so this is a big room with two different halves to it, kind of. And each half has these giant exhaust couplings, and you have to go up to the third floor. So it's one of the game's repeating geometric patterns, which is a large room with multiple floors with hallways that kind of go around. So you go up to the second floor, and then you go up to the third floor, and you get up there, and you have to hit the X button to activate a control terminal, and that removes the covering from the thingy, and then you either throw a grenade or shoot a rocket at it, and it blows up. You do that 4 times. There's lots of bad guys. They're everywhere. It's a lot. It's just totally chaotic craziness. There's even a little bit of platforming involved. You even got to do a little bit of jumping, which is, again, very old school shooter.
That reminds me. So in 343, when we're on our way down, there's a part that requires you to jump. And the last time it required us to jump was in the tutorial when it taught us that we could jump. And for a Dane, as like everyone calls Halo a jumpy shooter, like that's a derogatory thing they throw around about it. So you're always jumping everywhere. But I had forgotten about jumping, and I was so lost running around in circles trying to figure out what to do when there were crates stacked up in a little platforming area to get me to the next level, and I just forgot about jumping, and it's crazy. I love this game.
That is hilarious. I did not have that problem because I love to jump and am always be jumping.
Yeah.
So yeah, you don't have to jump here, I don't think, but there's a few parts where it's like there's 2 ways to go. And one of the ways it actually does require you to jump on a crate or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's like we're not holding the player's hand anymore. This is total old school shooter hours. You got to deal with all these enemies. You got to do jumps. You got to do well placed grenades. It's great. So you go around, you fight them. It's cool. You do it. A bunch of stuff happens. The monitor's flying around the whole time, being like, "Stop doing that." Yeah, I'm gonna get you. You know, I'm gonna stop you, but he can't do anything. He's just a fucking orb.
Yeah.
So you blow them all up. Cortana says there's 15 minutes for you to get out of the ship before it all blows up. We got to get out of here. Let's go this way. I don't know. Let's fucking go this way. And I'll call Fohammer and she'll come get us. This is the second time in the game there's a fake countdown. It's kind of funny. She's like, we have 15 minutes, but there's no timer. So actually you can take as much time as you want. But then a little while later, which I guess is 9 minutes later in plot time, she's like, now we have 6 minutes, and then there is actually a timer.
Yeah.
Which is cute. Anyway, there's only one thing left, and that is the end of this game. The end of this game is
real famous.
fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and it's famous as hell. To quote Tim Rogers, it is the tradition of great games to transform into a different game at the end.
Yes.
He says about MGS4. He goes, Metal Gear Solid 4 is not a great game, but it does end in the tradition of great games. Just like Halo 1 transformed into a driving game. The end of this is you have 6 minutes to GTFO. And let's be serious, the most iconic thing in all of Halo is the Warthog.
Yep.
A car that drives real stupid.
If this is the exact reason why the Warthog was iconic. Because it just being a vehicle in the other levels is okay, but this is like the vehicle that saves the day in this level.
I think it would be iconic no matter what, because, I mean, Halo's famous for its multiplayer, and it's a big part of team-based multiplayer.
Yeah.
Also, I think the reason it's so iconic is because it fucking drives fucking stupid. It's like, but I'm not going to criticize. Like, it's like, how do I explain it? The Warthog is extremely front-wheel drive.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. I guess it must have most of its weight in the front, which doesn't make sense because it's got an entire Gatling gun in the back.
Yeah.
But basically, you're driving along and you swing a hard right, and the front leads to a hard right, and the back fucking woof, fucking like fishtails way out. So you're just like slippy. It's like very slippy, slidey kind of driving. And they did tighten it up in later games because I think they thought it was a bit much, but they never really got rid of that core concept because it's the identity of this vehicle. Like in Reach, I think they actually went a little bit too far. In Halo Wars, they even you're just clicking them to move because they're just units that you build, but they move with that crazy fishtail style. So anyway, you got to drive this goddamn thing. And if you have a buddy, you get a buddy on your gunner seat in the back, and you have to drive through an extremely long... You basically have to drive the length of the whole ship. And it's enormous, and it's super fun. You have to sometimes do dramatic jumps across things. There's shit blowing up constantly. There's tons of enemies. You will flip your vehicle like 4 times at least.
Yeah.
You'll fly into a flood... What do you call it? Flood carrier form, and it'll blow up, and the blow up will just make you go woo into the air and fucking spin a bunch, or you just roll your vehicle because you're stupid and you turned too hard and you're me. There's lots of routes you can take through each of the hallways. You can do like the left side, the right side, the middle, the tunnel, the bridge. Everything's shooting at you. Although not really, because sometimes you'll be running through a hallway, and all the elites, instead of shooting at you, they're just running the same direction as you. They're also just trying to get out of here before everything blows up, which made me feel bad for shooting them and or running them over. It's like, buddy, you're a troop, I'm a troop. Solidarity. Like, we're just conscripted troops here, okay?
Yeah.
Like, come on, we're not each other's enemies. Just have some international solidarity.
Just like
form a union.
Sergeant Avery does in the cutscene in which he dies before he shows up to win a medal in Halo 2.
Yes, he does. Anyway, you have 6 minutes to escape. Halfway through, it's not really halfway through, it's more like 3/4 of the way through, but towards the maybe about 3 or 4 minutes in, you arrive at a big bridge, and there's not a battle on board this big bridge because there's no enemies. Cortana's like, stop, this is where we're going to be meeting Foehammer. She's going to pick us up here. If you actually stay to watch, there is an in-game scripted scene where you see Foehammer show up, and she is very on fire, and you're like, that doesn't seemed like a good sign. And then she's like, they're getting me. There's too many of them. And then she just fucking crashes and does not, in fact, pick you up. And then Cortana goes through this whole thing where she's like, oh God, what else are we going to do? What else are we going to do? I guess if we keep going in this direction, there's a what's this spaceship called? How could I forget the name of this damn thing?
The longsword fighter?
Longsword, yes. She says there's a longsword fighter docked in the bay. I guess we could use that to leave. And the whole time she's like, Cortana, the level only goes one way, okay? The funny thing is, during this entire scripted scene, the timer is still counting down.
Yeah.
This is like a 1 minute long scene, so you're just losing like an entire minute watching a scripted cutscene. If you already know what happens, you get to the bridge, Cortana's like, stop, and you're like, nope. and you just keep going.
Yeah.
And then the game acts like, Fohammer just died. Cortana's like, oh no, Fohammer died. And it's like, yeah, I know. That's why I didn't stop the car.
Yeah.
So it's way easier to get to the end without running out of time on your second attempt.
Yeah.
Which is fucking funny. So you drive a bit more. It gets even more crazy. There's more crazy jumps. There's one part where you try to make a big jump, and Cortana's like, "We'll make this jump. We can make this jump. It is impossible to make this jump." So then you fall a long way, and while you're falling, like 4 different explosions happen.
Yeah.
And then you go through a big tunnel, and finally you get to the docking bay, and you see the longsword, and you jump out of your warthog, and you charge through the enemies, and they're all shooting at you, and you're like, I'm not going to turn around and shoot them. I'm just going to keep running and hope I get to the cutscene. And you do, and Master Chief jumps onto the ship, and she's like, we're not going to make it, and Chief's like, we are going to make it, because that's their bit, and they get on the ship, and they fly away.
Mm-hmm.
And it fucking whips.
Yeah, and then it shows outside of the ship, and the ship's exploding, and you see Sergeant Avery Johnson nowhere near any vehicle that is space-worthy, fighting like hand-to-hand with an elite, and then the ship starts to explode, and he looks at the elite, and it's like, yeah, this is it, buddy, and they hug, and then the halo explodes.
It's really funny. Although that scene is only on if you beat the game on Legendary, so
okay.
you don't tend to see it.
I didn't know because I didn't get to finish the levels this morning.
Right,
our power went out for like 12 of my Halo playing hours yesterday, so I just had to watch the cutscenes to finish the game this morning.
Yeah, that's a bonus Easter egg, and I think that's one reason why they decided to not bother explaining it. They're like, most players didn't see this cutscene anyway.
Yeah.
If you're wondering how Sergeant Avery Johnson, who again, as will become clear in just a second, Chief is the only person who made it off the ring. So how is Sergeant Johnson there in Halo 2, which it takes place like a week later?
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you had read Contact Harvest or any of the other books that probably explain it.
Yeah, basically he like got kind of infected by the Flood.
Okay.
But because of dumb plot things, it didn't, like, I guess he was immune or something, so it didn't get him, but it allowed him to survive in the vacuum of space.
Yeah, Sergeant Avery Johnson is the best troop.
And then some dumb bullshit happened. It rules. It's cool. It's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Again, Johnson is literally just one of the Marines. He's the only one that has a name, and he has a couple lines. He's just a bit character who shows up sometimes. That's it. Next game, it's like, hey, we're retconning that. We're just gonna. Turns out he's one of the main characters. He and the Chief are best friends. They're like buddy cops. We're just gonna act like this was definitely always the case. Just go with us on it. In Halo 3, he gets like a dramatic, heroic moment of sacrifice where he like saves the goddamn day at the end. It's just like, okay, cool. It rules. He's great. Yeah. It's just a very funny thing. It's just a very funny thing for this character who was just nothing in this game.
Yeah.
He rules. And also it's just a total, he's just a total stereotype character. Like, he's just the gruff police. He's just, he's the troop, but he's also like the gruff police chief.
Yeah.
Like, he's the police chief who tells the hero that that they've gone out of control and need to turn in their badge, But but then at the end he ends up siding with the hero because realizing, sometimes you gotta go a little on the wrong side of the law in order to do what's right, or something like that, which is totally wrong, and I don't agree with that. But yeah, that's Sergeant Johnson. He whips. You escape. There's a bunch of explosions. What's up?
Talking about Johnson, so I went and I found an old thread on HaloWaypoint.com, and they said that he was actually pre-Spartan 1 attempt at a super soldier. That's why he, you see him, he should have died with the Flood, the first, in the Jenkins footage.
Oh, that's right. He was involved in the Spartan 1 program. I forgot about that.
And so he should have died when Jenkins died, but he didn't. He should have died here, but he didn't. But it's because he's souped up, and that's why the Flood couldn't take control of his body, and part of that is why Chief isn't ever afraid when he goes in there. He's like, well, they're not going to take me because of blah blah blah, and he got on a found one of the crashed Pelicans, got it working, had a small group of Marines that he escaped with out in space, and the Pelican the longsword met up with it and took him back home. But yeah, it's a little bit of convenient plot bullshit because they wanted the fan favorite character back for the sequel.
Yeah, exactly. So I read a number of the books, but I actually haven't read whichever book it is that explains this. I was just saying what I was saying earlier was just hearsay, right?
Yeah.
Also, who knows? They may have retconned it like 4 times.
Probably so. The series is not afraid of retcons, which is crazy because playing Halo 1, I was expecting so many things that would have to be retconned, and there actually was a lot more of MCU # it's all connected bullshit and very few retcons, which was crazy.
A lot. Well, okay, so Bungie had a very detailed story Bible, like from the jump.
Mm-hmm.
But the funny thing is, when they contract writers to write books based on the series, they are pretty loosey-goosey with them. Mm-hmm. So they let the writers make up all kinds of shit if they want to.
Yeah.
So a lot of John's backstory was invented, even though they did have a story Bible, a lot of the details in The Fall of Reach were just the brain, which just came out of Eric Nyland's brain.
Yeah. And
but
that's why it doesn't
canon.
Match up with Halo Reach 100% because Bungie knows better.
Yeah, so The Fall of Reach was canon for a decade until they made Halo Reach, because Halo Reach covers a lot of the same stuff. Mm-hmm. So at that point, they're like, yeah, this isn't canon anymore because now the game that we made overwrites it.
Yeah.
Just because they realized wait, we can't make a game about this event if this event was largely just spaceship combat.
Yeah.
This is a shooting game. You have to be able to have the soldiers shoot things. So they had to make up some bullshit reason for the Covenant to actually land on the planet instead of just glassing it.
Yeah.
But yeah. FYI, Halo books fucking rule.
Yeah.
Except for the one that is a novelization of this game called The Flood, and that one's bad.
Yeah. I mentioned last episode that we didn't talk about the novelization of this game because it was a spoiler for this episode because it's called The Flood.
Yeah. They're all really good. I haven't read every single one of them. I've read a number of them. They're all just like really, really good. Like hard military sci-fi, low-key, like kind of space opera kind of stuff. They're super cool lore, super really well-written characters. Captain Keyes is one of the main characters of The Fall of Reach, and turns out he fucking rules.
Yeah.
Turns out he's not just the captain of your ship in this game. He's like one of the most famous captains, and he's famous for doing like a crazy maneuver to defeat a whole Covenant fleet like early on in the war, so he's like highly decorated. It's all you learn about Cortana, you learn about Dr. Halsey, you learn about why Cortana is simultaneously Master Chief's mom and girlfriend. It's good shit. Anyway, you blow the hell out of Halo. When you make the explosion, it blows off an entire chunk of the ring, and that chunk flies all the way through space to the other side of the ring and then smacks into the other side of the ring and breaks it in half, and it's super cool. It's just really cool watching things blow up. The Master Chief flies away. He says, did anybody make it? Cortana says, I'm doing scanners.
Just dust and echoes.
Dust and echoes. Yep. Literally nobody, which is funny because I was like, oh, so Echo 419 made it.
Yeah, I thought the exact same thing.
No, dust and echoes. Nobody made it. Not a single human, not a single Covenant. Everyone's dead except for us.
And apparently a Pelican holding Sergeant Johnson and a group of Marines.
Yeah, apparently. And a lot of other stuff, actually. The books are... Okay, so you know how Master Chief is the last Spartan? He's the only Spartan that survived. All the rest of them are dead. That has literally never been true at a single point in the series, if you read any of the books.
Yep.
But they keep saying it's true for the games because, A, they don't want to have to explain that shit to the normies who didn't read the books, and being the last one of your kind is a good, like, plot hook. Like, that's a dramatic hook, right? It's not as dramatic to be like, Chief has to save the day. Oh, and there's like a few other Spartans, but they're kind of off doing something else.
Yeah.
That'd be too hard to explain. So they just don't.
Is that why Spartan Lock is hated? Because they then had to explain that the books have been a thing? Or is he hated because of other dumb reasons?
No, he's hated because the books, because the game is fucking stupid.
Okay.
That's the only reason.
Okay, I haven't played Guardians yet because I don't have a boner, so I need one. But I'll
you
wait
definitely
till
won't have a boner after you play it either. Let me tell you.
But I'll just wait for it to come to PC because I have one of those, and I don't want to buy an Xbone the week before the Scarlet comes out.
Yeah, it's actually really funny. So, like, the end of Halo 1 is literally like you just... So what happens is she's like, it's over, we defeated the Flood, and Chief goes, no, I think we're just getting started. And then he dramatically takes off his helmet, but his head is obscured by a camera angle. So he takes off his helmet, but you don't see what he looks like, which is a recurring theme of the game of, the Chief is the Chief. You don't even know what he looks like under there. Except if you use hacks and change the camera angle, you can see what's under there, and it's another helmet.
Yep. He's like that meme of Horatio Caine pulling off his sunglasses in CSI, and there's just more sunglasses underneath.
It's so funny. You should totally look up the YouTube video of Chief takes off helmet. It's like someone figured that out years ago, and now it's just an important part of like Halo fandom. Of like underneath it's just another helmet. Helmets all the way down. But like one thing that's cute is like the end of this game, you just fly off in a longsword, right? The next game, they don't explain how this happened, but the next game is you are arriving at Earth. You're arriving at a battle station, orbital defense platform, orbiting Earth. And everyone's so happy to see you. You're a hero. And there's even a ceremony where they give you a little medal, and they give Sergeant Johnson a medal. And that's sort of the start of the game. And then, of course, the Covenant attack and stuff, which, right, the Covenant not discovering Earth was the entire premise for the plot of the first game. But now they discovered Earth. They discovered Earth because of
other reasons.
Bullshit.
In case we ever cover Halo 2.
Yeah. But what's crazy, though, is like, you're like, oh, how'd they get there? You're probably assuming, like, I don't know, they flew the longsword over there? No. Turns out they had an entire other adventure, Halo First Strike, in which Master Chief meets up with two other Spartans, Linda and I forget the other one. And John, Linda, and the other one go on a different adventure where they end up, like, boarding a Covenant cruiser, and then there's a little bit of time travel.
Oh, my God.
Well, it's to make it match up, because basically, like, the way the timeline works, they couldn't have actually gotten from Halo to Earth in the amount of time that they needed to for Halo 2 to happen.
Okay.
So they end up, like, entering what's called a slip space bubble. Basically, in this game, slip space is hyperspace, but you can't just do whatever you want. I feel like with most things, like warp speed in Star Trek, it's just like, it just means you go real fast.
Yeah.
But this is like time, this is like a special alternate dimension where everything flows different, and you have to navigate what's already there.
Okay.
So you might find a nearby slip space vector and jump in it, and then you pop out where you pop out. So it's not like something you have a lot of control over. Anyway, point is, they get in a big battle, and then some weird shit happens. I think like some ancient Forerunner technology explodes, and it makes a giant weird slip space bubble in space. And when they fly into it, they go back in time 2 weeks.
That's amazing.
So I guess that means that a lot of Halo First Strike is actually chronologically simultaneous with Halo 1, even though it's still the Chief doing it. So that means when they finish it, they end up getting back to Earth, and it's only been like a few days since the end of Halo 1 instead of like a month. The entire Halo trilogy takes place over the course of approximately 3 weeks. And that's cool because you get to see them going from the entire wars being lost to complete societal breakdown and religious and sociocultural revolution, and completely overhauling all the existing systems of order in, again, a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
It happens real fast.
Yeah.
Isn't that how life is sometimes, though?
Yep.
There's periods when nothing happens, and then periods where everything happens.
Yep.
Lenin said something that was similar to that, but more elegant, and also in Russian.
Yes.
Anyway, that's the end of the game. That's Halo.
Yeah. Halo's great. Now let's listen to some more Marty O'Donnell music. I don't know if I announced the changeover to talking about the game,
you didn't.
So I'll just...
My bad. I always forget that that's part of our thing.
Yeah, but oh well. Let's listen to some great Marty O'Donnell music, and then we'll talk about our memorable moments that I somehow actually still have a couple left.
Good.
right, so one of my memorable moments is a game design thing. So in the library, the first time you come to one of those holes in the floor, it's glassed over, but you can blow it up. And if you do blow it up and go down there, there's an overshield. And the rest of the time, there are canyons in the floor. They are not glassed over, and you need to go down them to progress. And so this little exploratory thing it'll probably accidentally blow it up while just fighting the flood, and then if you decide to explore and see what's down there, you get rewarded for a thing that you have to do on purpose later, which is a thing that Halo's done a lot throughout this game. Is there's the optional Banshee thing if you steal it early. There's optional rocket launchers if you get those early, etc., which I thought was really cool.
Hell yeah, it rules. I agree.
Then the other thing I like, we mentioned a bunch of these, but Cortana saying that she knew it was Forerunner, and 343 saying but when the others follow suit, and mentioning that they're intelligent enough to fly a spaceship, and all these things offhandedly were kind of like they were making an ARG within their own game to hype up Halo 2, where it would get you primed on these questions. Are like, well, that doesn't make sense, so that they can answer it. Like, it wasn't necessarily a plot hole. It was just like, somebody's lying, and I need to know who's lying and why, and they answered that with a whole nother game.
Yeah, I was shocked to see how much of this, like, a lot of Halo 2's lore developments, I definitely thought that they had, like, invented between Halo 1 and Halo 2, you know? Kind of like how they invented Darth Vader being Luke's father in between Star Wars 4 and Star Wars 5. I was definitely surprised at how much stuff I'm like, oh, that was planned all along? Oh, shit. And I'm sure they didn't have it 100% planned, but, like, a lot of it. Like, the whole thing where Cortana didn't actually do a random jump, I definitely thought that was invented later, but nope, right at the beginning of the game, there's hints that hint towards it. All kinds of stuff, and just the whole. As I said before, one of this game's main themes is the series is like coincidences. I think that's why it has that epic mythic quality to it, because you have these weird, hilariously mythic coincidences where it's like, we randomly jumped to the Halo and the Covenant are there. Oh no, it turns out the Covenant were there for a reason. It wasn't actually a coincidence. Cortana knew this. Later, it's like, oh god, the Covenant finally found Earth. They have a weirdly small army. That's weird. We're not going to explain it. If you don't have to read the books, but if you think real hard with your brain and really put together the clues, you realize the Covenant discovered Earth on accident.
Yeah.
Which is the most hilarious thing. They were just going to Earth because they saw that there was a planet that had a Forerunner artifact on it, and that was important, and they wanted to go there. And then it turns out that was Earth. That's just the stupidest, but also most incredibly. That's like absolutely incredible writing. Like,
yeah, and that's only a spoiler for the second level of Halo 2, so it's fine that we say it now. Like, you'll get to that cutscene in your first hour of play. So
yeah, and there's so many other things where it's like, either something seems like a coincidence and it's not, or something seems like it's not and the answer is it was a coincidence.
Yeah, it's good.
Anyway, it's a great series. I love Halo 1. I love shooting. I love shooting aliens. I want to play the rest of the games now, frankly, but sadly, I have other things to do with my life, and I think that you do too. But thank you so much, everyone, for contributing to our pod enough so that we could do a shortcast.
Yeah, it's been great.
I was very, very happy we were able to do it. I would love to do another one. Sam, do we have any idea what the next shortcast on the docket might be?
So the next shortcast is going to be The Last of Us, but we have a long cast in the way first. And I haven't decided yet if I want to do my original plan of... So for long cast, you unlock a part of it. So our first one is going to be .hack. You unlock one of the three or four parts. I forget how many are in .hack GU. But you'll unlock each of those as a chunk, because it'll be like 70 episodes or some crazy bullshit to cover them all. I don't know exactly. But I don't know if I want to unlock... So we did Halo and then .hack Part 1, and then we do Last of Us, or if we do .hack Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, Part 4. I haven't decided yet. We haven't unlocked .hack yet. I haven't been forced to decide. So we'll see how that happens when that happens. But
cool.
The Last of Us is definitely
we get there.
This is definitely the one I want to do, though.
Yeah, and you haven't played that, right?
I haven't played it at all. So
I was just mentioning to a friend recently, and this isn't something you need to feel bad about or anything, but I was just like, man, why have I played every single game we do on this podcast? And it's not y'all's fault. You're making great decisions about what games you play. I've just played way too many games.
Yeah.
It's just we're having a really hard time finding ones that I haven't played.
Yeah, even when we have some weird deep cut ones planned for year 3, and I bet you still probably played at least a demo of some of them.
Yeah, because I think part of it is we're playing stuff that are relatively well common. You just haven't played them yet. But also the deep cuts. It's not that I've played every deep cut obscure game in existence. I just happen to have played all the ones that we are interested in playing.
Yeah.
Now I haven't played Ease, so
yeah. So hopefully
I'm
Ease will win.
super looking forward. I don't think I've played either of the ones in that block. So
yeah, that'll be dope. But
yeah, it's kind of funny.
But yeah, so that'll do it for Shortcast number 1. I hope you all enjoyed it, and if you want us to do more of these, you can hit us up at on our Ko-Fi, which there's a link for it at our website at www.rpgbook.club. And while you're there, you can also vote on our main series games and check out some exclusive blog posts where I'm going to start talking about Digimon a lot, because that's just where my brain is at these days. So look forward to that. But other than that, we are done. So for RPG Book Club, I have been Sam Allman.
And I've been Maddie Webbin.
And go finish the fight, folks.
Over and out. Oh god, the new Sonic design is out?
Yeah, I saw leaks of it, but have they said it for real? Like, officially?
I mean, I've seen more than one tweet about it, so it must have been officially released today or something. Oh boy.
Let's see. Well, that's definitely Sonic. He's got 2 eyes, but he's got a little white fur patch to connect them, so that's better than nothing.
Yeah, not gonna lie. The boy looks good.
The boy looks good. We got a...
Okay, that's...
I'm looking at the new trailer.
It's crazy how much just a change like that can make such a like because it wasn't just like we don't like change. It was like, no, this fucking looks disgusting and freaky, you know. And now they slightly changed it, and it's like it's still live action. It's still, I mean, live action CG. Mm-hmm. It's still like realistic in CG. It's still weird, but it's like, but it's good.
Yeah, I'm watching it in action. It's spectacular.
Okay, fine. I gotta watch this shit now.
Yeah, it's really loud. It's gonna blow out your ears. It blew out mine
too.
Yeah, so the police have drones.
Yeah.
So this seems like it's going to have more of a statement than I originally thought. Because the police have drones, and they're definitely being led by Dr. Robotnik, who is the villain of the piece. So
maybe the buddy is a rogue cop?
Maybe he's a cop that doesn't like how cops go anymore.
So he's reifying the myth of the good cop then.
Yeah.
Love it. But did you read the thing I sent you?
No, not yet. I was looking at my boy. He looks great. Yeah, I'm gonna watch the shit out of this movie now. Like, that one change was literally enough, which is crazy.
I mean, it's still probably gonna be extremely boilerplate, but whatever.
Where did you send it to me? On text?
On Twitter.
Oh, on Twitter. Okay.
I just don't... Why does he have to come to Earth? Why can't he just have an adventure in Sonic the Hedgehog land? Why can't a human boy or cop get transported to Sonic Hedgehog land? Or they could just set it in, the more like the Sonic Adventure sort of continuity where there's already like a modern world with skyscrapers and stuff. You know what I mean? Without having to have this weird like cross-dimensional thing. Whatever.
So, like, they should show... Here's my Sonic movie. they should have a little boy show up in Sonic the Hedgehog land, but that little boy is Dr. Robotnik. And so you see like a flashback and you're like, oh, this is going to be our boy and he's going to be Sonic's buddy. But then it's a different boy somehow is Sonic's buddy, and the boy we thought was the buddy was Dr. Robotnik.
And it turned... or that's the only boy. I would love the idea if, like, Dr. Robotnik came from another world, and he's the only human in this entire world, and it'd be kind of a statement on humanity. It's like, oh, if a human was transported into a peaceful society, what would they do?
They would
fuck it up.
Yeah.
They would fuck it up. They would be evil. That is what they would do.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, that's hilarious.
Yeah. I also, like, instead of being transported to Sonic the Hedgehog land, do they know that, like, in Sonic Adventure and Sonic X and basically every Sonic game, it's just Earth. There just happens to be Sonic the Hedgehogs everywhere. So they could have just done Detective Pikachu like that.
What bugs me about it is it's so 90s or 2000s kids adventure movie in the fact that they need to fucking over-explain everything.
Yeah.
Like, not everything's got to be a goddamn origin story. Nothing has to be explained. Like, this is 2019. Movies are good again, right?
Yeah.
Just have your weird world that it takes place in and just drop us into it and do the movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay. Like, you don't need to elaborately explain this stuff.
Yeah.
You know? Like, that's really all it is. It's just a fucking
like,
old 90s aughts movie writing.
And I get why they wanted to do it, because the leaning into the joke nature of Sonic the Hedgehog works for, like, like in the trailer, they're driving past a tourist trap, and he's like, "Oh, can we stop? Can we stop?" And he's like, "No, we don't have time." And he goes, "Yes, I do." And he runs and comes back, and he's covered in like touristy gift shop stuff, and like those sorts of things only work in Fish Out of Water, but they could have not made it Fish Out of Water and done other ways to do it. The Fish Out of Water
trope, the whole Fish Out of Water trope, it's just, that's such lazy. What that is that's because in the 90s and aughts, one thing, the thing that was at the core of the movies being so bad was that they were always condescending to their audience. They thought their audience were all fucking idiots, right? It's like the big business markety, smarty pants asshole people decided, we have calculated via algorithms and business magic that people who watch movies are fucking stupid, and because of capitalism, we're going to cater to that. So we're going to dumb all of our movies down, never give them never let them have any mystery or mystique or artistry. It's not just that they're a boilerplate, because that's whatever. I don't mind tropes, right? But yeah, it's the over-explaining. And the whole Fish Out of Water thing is a way of being like, if we show audiences something too scary, they won't want to... Not too scary. If we show audiences something too unusual, they're not going to want to see it. Mm-hmm. So, of course, you have to give them a surrogate. You have to have the fucking little kid for the kids to identify with. You have to have the love interest. You have to have all these elements, and that's just one of the many elements it has to have. But it's just misguided. And I'm not saying that it can't work on some stories, but Sonic is all about fighting for the place that he loves. He's all about fighting for his home.
He's literally like
classic.
He's like a terrorist freedom fighter in the best Sonic story that is the comics.
Yeah. Especially in the OG timeline. I mean, don't get me wrong. The adventure timeline is great, and I like the things that he gets up to, but it's a little more complicated. In the originals, it's like, no, he's on an island, he lives a peaceful existence, and these bad invaders are fucking specifically fucking up the environment, and he's fighting he's fighting against it. Like, that's him not being in a place where that is his home is just robs him of his entire character.
Yeah. But in other news, Super Mario 64 Land came out this Sunday, and it looks fucking fantastic.
What is that?
It's a total conversion of Mario ROM hack that's like incredibly total conversion.
Total conversion of what to what?
Total conversion is a type of mod that takes a game and then makes a new game in the engine using the game as a base. And so they made...
Oh, no, sorry. So it's still Mario 64.
Yeah, it's Super Mario 64, but it's a entirely new game, and just the clips from this little trailer look really good. Like,
given the name of it, I was like, did they put Mario 64 in Mario Odyssey graphics? Like,
no, they...
I get you now.
It's probably named that because the cat suit is in it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Super awesome.
But yeah, it looks great. So
That sounds
probably
rad.
going to download and play that.
Well, I will say, nothing against people who made it, but Mario 64, I believe, is one of those games that is extremely delicate. And it's like, if you judge it by like objective measures, it's got all these problems, but something about Mario 64
Works.
is precisely what it is. Precisely exactly what it is like this pristine and perfect object. And I could imagine playing a new game, a different game with the same engine, being like, all of its flaws, you're just like, why does it control so weird? Why does it do this? Why does it do this? Why does it do this? Whereas this doesn't hold up. Whereas in the original game, it's just somehow it all coheres into this thing. And that's not just nostalgia, because frankly, I didn't play that game much as a kid. Anyway, but no, I'm still more good on the people who made it. That's awesome. What a big project.
Speaking of total conversions, by the way, this is the longest pre-roll we've ever had. It's for up to 16 minutes.
Hell yeah.
But speaking of total conversions, did I show you the Banjo-Kazooie total conversion and how I was excited and then I was really, really mad because these people like bad games, so they made a bad game?
Well, I mean, they did make a Banjo-Kazooie total conversion mod.
No, not they like Banjo-Kazooie bad games.
Well, no. What was so maddening about it?
So it's in the Banjo-Kazooie 1 engine, so your notes reset upon death, and they built the levels like a Metroidvania, where you need a certain amount of you need moves to unlock and go farther in each world, which is totally fine. It's not far off of it, except they made all of the note costs be like 3 or 4 and made there be precisely 12 notes in each of the giant levels, and then they made it a Kaizo hack, so everything's really, really hard on top of it. All of those things together make it 12 times worse than Banjo-Kazooie is. Where you even have to unlock your moves that you get in Spiral Mountain at the beginning of the game. Like you can't even double jump or attack at the beginning of the game until you get enough notes to unlock it.
That's some bullshit.
That's a lot of bullshit.
So you have to go and get 2 or 3 notes to get something, and then if you die, you have to get all 3 of them.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
Jesus.
And it's 2 or 3 notes spread out up in a giant level, so it's not even like you can actually find them.
The whole thing with the Kaizo thing is like, it's supposed to be super bullshit goddamn hard, but then once you beat part of it, you should be like get like a checkpoint, you know?
100%. And because they picked Banjo 1, they can't do that. And it's nuts. Like, I just wanted somebody to be like, oh, let's take all of the good engine improvements that Banjo-Tooie did and take out the bullshit giant level, 2 giant levels and the bullshit backtracking just to open a door bullshit and make levels that work in the engine. It's like Banjo-Tooie's levels are one thing and their engine is another. And
yeah, if you're doing total conversion anyway, why not go with Banjo-Tooie? Like, it's the same thing, it's just got more and is better.
Yeah. It's bizarre.
Mechanically, I mean, yeah.
But, anywho, let's actually talk about Halo. This isn't Banjo-Cast.
Yeah, let's talk about Halo. Yeah, and of course we can include any amount of this that we want in the real thing if we want to. It can be kind of cute. It's like, I guess we're talking about this now.
Yeah. Just 19 minutes into the episode, the theme song starts.